Well, good morning, everyone. And how are you? And once again, welcome to another live this morning. It is so much fun when you can come on live with us here at the Doctor Is In podcast and Facebook Live. We appreciate it. And we'll wait till you get a few notifications here. I can see people are coming on. And I wish I could say hello to everyone. I can't because I can't see the scroll anymore. But what I asked you to do, okay, because I do have a list. I have two lists. And then I'm adding to it because yesterday I asked you if I missed you. If I haven't said your name in those two lists that I've gone through a few times, let me know. And Arlene, let me know. And Donna, we have a couple of Donnas. Elaine, Laura, and Nikki. They said, hey, Doc, you missed me. Well, I didn't mean to, okay? And we appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming on. We love you dearly. And I'll say hello to our Trinity, Andrea, Michael from Norland, and Brahim. I'll say hello to Nativity and Yolande and Nick from our staff and Georgie out in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We're going to say hello to Kevin because I think he's still out east. The mayor of the Martin Clinic private Facebook group. Okay, so many of you, Deb, Milika, Madeleine, Donna, I mentioned Donna, but there's a lot of Donnas, Georgie, Nellie, Nativity, Carrie, Nebraska, Doc McEwen from West Tennessee, and we appreciate her big time. And our dear friend, Dr. Troy in Newfoundland, Maria, Helga, Herma, Fran, Marlo, Dorothy, Judy, Gail, Marlene, Giovanni, Vince, Sandra, Mary, Corinne, Patricia, Frida, Evangeline, Francis, Brandon, Martine, Bruno, Leela, I think Bruno's in North Bay, Karen, Dave, in Muskoka, Maureen, Marla, Caroline, Crystal, Cecilia. Now, again, I know I missed some, and I got to get out my second list, too. Anywho, okay. Thanks for coming on, guys. Now, remember, tomorrow is Q&A, so get your questions in. Let me, I'm getting, I don't know if I'm just going to write this up in a newsletter or email fashion, but I've been, what they don't teach you in medical school, okay? What they don't teach you in medical school. And of course, almost on a daily basis, we hit some of these things. They just don't teach. Nutrition, I hope that changes. I hope that changes. But I don't want them just to teach, like sort of traditional nutrition. Like, eat everything in moderation. The food chain is built, the food pyramid is built upside down, and that's what they teach, because grains, fruits, and vegetables, they're the best. They want that to be your foundation, and they're still hung up on fat. Now, there's bad fats. They're called PUFAs. Polyunsaturated fatty acids. They're found in the middle aisles of your grocery store. But your body needs fat. Your brain needs fat. You got fat-soluble vitamins, and that's why I've been preaching to you for a long time. And that's what I'm worried about if they just say we're going to start teaching nutrition in medical schools. They don't do it. They don't do it. And that's why my little phrase is, why don't you go to your plumber for nutritional advice? You'll get better advice from your plumber than you will your doctor. Because they just got it upside down. And they don't teach that. We spent 2 programs talking about candida, yeast and fungus. They don't teach that in medical school. Imagine. Imagine. A problem like candida albicans and the overgrowth of yeast in the body and leaky gut. They still don't teach it. There's a lot of doctors there. I've spoken to a lot of them. And they're not convinced that leaky gut exists. I just don't know what planet they're on. They don't teach them that. They don't teach them the importance of vitamin D. Here's what they teach in medical school. I know this for a fact. The toxicity of vitamin D. They teach that. Brought to you by the pharmaceutical companies. They have scared the living life out of doctors and vitamin D. It's crazy. When I hear the dosages, all based on bad math, guys, bad math, and try and change it. We got Health Canada here. They are on steroids scared of vitamin D. It's crazy. I told you guys through the virus, if we just gave everybody vitamin D, it would have been the best thing that ever happened to the planet. Get everybody, if they could, get in the sun and vitamin D supplementation. But did they listen? No, of course not. The world out there is Linda. Listen, Linda, listen. And they weren't listening. They weren't listening. Simple. What they don't teach is the difference, okay, between the plant and the soil. Okay? I'm going to do, because there's a lot of this in science, guys, in nutritional science, in medical science. The wars that went on, right? And I brought to this to you in the past, but it would be good just to go over. You could do, and I've talked to you about these Frenchmen that had wars. Louis Pasteur and Antoine Béchamp. Big wars. Theories. And the one that wins out, for example, Louis Pasteur. Everything is about the bacteria. Everything is about a virus. And you saw the results of that in the last pandemic. You see the results of that. And when you look at, for example, the flu shot, it all goes back to the war between Louis Pasteur and Antoine Béchamp. And Louis Pasteur won, and the whole world went that way. All the medical establishment went that way. There was very few people that backed, after this, Antoine Béchamp. They didn't back up. His theory was, you know what's more important? You. Not the virus, not the bacteria. Not that that's not important, but the most important thing, Antoine Béchamp said, was the soil, not the plant. The plant is what you see. The soil is your immune system. It's your body on the inside. It's what you've been given by God to fight bacteria and viruses. And Béchamp was saying way back when that that's the most important thing. Your immune system. Okay? Not any medication to wipe out a bacteria or virus. Now look, antibiotics came out of that. And listen, there's some good things that came out of Louis Pasteur and then down the road in that tradition there. Disease, viruses, bacteria. We have to produce antibacterials, antibiotics, right? And look, it's not that there was no good things. It's just the war that happens. And I have studied that for 50 years. And I said, well, look, you can run around all day. I watched a video yesterday, and they were showing the bacteria. You know, they just did specimens there and swabs in an airport. Guys, you'd never travel if that's all you thought about, right? Like if you think you're wearing a mask, oh, I'm going on a plane, I'm going to wear a mask. Okay. If it really helps you psychologically, go for it. What it's doing against bacteria or virus? Nothing. Nothing. And you go in a plane, but it's not even just in the plane, guys. These swabs were taken in an airport infested with bacteria. And it don't matter how much they clean, you can't clean it all, right? So what's more important? The airport? The environment? Or you? That's what I'm saying. It's you. You're never going to get rid of all the bacteria. You know, you see these people, they lather up and they're every 2 seconds, they're washing their hands. Look, you want to use soap and water? What are you supposed to do when you're in the airport? Okay? I'm just using the airport as an example. We live with bacteria, guys. You live with viruses. You're not going to get away. Well, you're going to live in a bubble? But you see, the whole establishment went for Louis Pasteur and his theory. It became doctrine. And the medical establishment, the pharmaceutical, you name it. Because now, not talking about immune system. Right? They're not talking about, well, what about your T cells? Your natural killer cells? How do I activate that stuff? How do I keep my immune system in tip-top shape? Okay? I'm not saying don't wash your hands. I'm not saying that. But you can wash your hands until the cows come home. And if you don't have a good immune system, you're done like dinner. But I don't talk about that. They don't talk about that. And we saw it again like that whole theory came to roost in the last pandemic. And you know me, I had a migraine for 4 years. Like, I was on the beach in Florida when they closed it down. I was there. I was John the Baptist on the beach. Hello! Please don't close the beaches. It's the best thing for a virus. And you know what they're showing now? I was right. And they closed the beaches in Florida. Now, they only did it for a couple of weeks. I was trying to get, and I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I seriously talked about it because you guys know this. Please, bring us all the Canadians you can fly and get us down to Florida in the sun to build our immune system. And short of that, I said, please, everyone take vitamin D. And not 1,000 IUs. That's for mice, not for men and women. But didn't I say it? But they didn't teach it. And even today in medical school, Louis Pasteur and his theory has won the day. If there'll ever be a change in that, I don't think it'll be, well, I'm not a prophet nor the son of one, but I can almost guarantee there'll be no change when it comes to the medical schools. And Antoine Béchamp will be, like he hasn't left in the dust. They won't resurrect his theory on soil. Don't look at the plant. Look at the soil. Look at the immune system. Not going to happen in my lifetime. But at least the folks that I can educate, at least the people that I can reach. I've said this to you before, but I used to say it in practice all the time. Because people would ask me, Dr. Martin, you can't retire. Well, I said, I don't plan on retiring. It's not in my DNA. But there will be a day, and I was hoping, this was my goal, was to come out of practice with individual patients. I did that for a long time. And get out into the public. I was already doing it. I did both because of my days on radio. But I always said I want to teach. I want a platform if I can to teach. And you get at what you can get at in terms of an audience, right? And we're thankful because, like I said, in Canada, we're the #1 health podcast in Canada. And we want that to happen in the States. I think it's common sense. I think it ought to be, get both sides and then you decide. Okay? If you know me, I will give credit where credit is due. And that's why, like when people tell me, well, I'll never take a medication, I don't tell people that. I'll never take an antibiotic. Well, you'd be a fool to say that. If you ever got in a car accident or you ever had sepsis or whatever. Are you kidding me? Of course you're going to take an antibiotic. But I'm more interested overall in the soil. I'm Antoine. That's Tony in French, by the way. Anthony. Antoine. I was trying to explain that one time to someone. And what? They said, well, your name's Tony Martin. I said, well, yeah, but on my birth certificate, you'll see Antoine. That's French for Anthony. The guy didn't know that. I said, yeah, that's what it is. Anywho, okay. So what don't they teach? Right? They don't teach you this in medical school. They don't talk about the soil. They don't talk about your immune system. They learn about the immune system to some extent because they have to take physiology. They have to take blood. They have to take histology. And they learn, hey, you got T cells. But they're so indoctrinated with pharmaceuticals that they almost dismiss the immune system. And let me tell you something else that really bothers me. The whole cancer industry thinks that way. And talk about your immune system. Don't worry about your immune system. You got cancer. So now we're going to blast the living life out of it with radiation. We are going to use mustard gas to kill it. Yeah, it'll kill your immune system too, but we'll worry about that later. That is the whole emphasis in cancer treatment today. Oncology. And you know what's happening on the war on cancer? We barely made a dent. The only dent that occurred is when people stopped smoking. But that, you know what happened? The dent went away in the curve. It went down. People stopped smoking. But the new smoking is what? Content of the diet and sugar content. And then you add in the environment and the estrogen that is floating around. But they don't talk about that. They wait till you get cancer. Diet, nah, what's the diet got? That's why you get cancer, you go to an oncologist, and they send you home with Ensure, ensuring that the cancer will grow, because they see no connection, none, between sugar and cancer. It's not taught. I know I repeat myself all the time. I remember having a conversation with an oncologist one time. She was very nice. Mad at me at first. Dr. Martin, what's this? You've told my patient to cut out sugar. Why do you do that? Why do you do that? What's that got to do with cancer? I said, do you have a PET? I knew they had. Do you have a PET scan? And it ain't for your pets. It's for cancer. You have cancer imaging scan, the PET scan. Yes, she said, we do. I said, how does it work? I don't know. I said, they give them sugar. They make you drink it before they put you in the machine and do the imaging, or they give it to you in an IV. Glucose. What? Yeah. Why would they do that? Well, because sugar goes right to the cancer. Cancer is ravenous. We've known that since 1928. Cancer needs fuel. What? I never learned that. I know you didn't. I know you didn't. Now, by the way, I sent that patient to you. Moi. I did it. I was suspicious this patient had cancer, and I wanted them to see you. Don't be mad at me. I referred that patient to you. And then, you talked about what treatment you wanted to do. I told them, look, you make that decision, not me. But I'm telling you what to do for your soil. I'm telling you what to do for your body. I'm telling you what to eat. I'm going to tell you how to activate your immune system. It's not that complicated. I'm going to tell you what to do for that. And the treatment and the way you want to go, once they did diagnose, I was right about the diagnosis. And I said, well, you make decisions on what treatment plan you want, but I said, here's what I want you to do for the soil, your body, your immune system. They're going to do that for the cancer. Here's what I want you to do. They don't teach that. They don't teach it. It's too bad, but they don't teach it. It's, like I said, it's John the Baptist in the wilderness, crying out, repent. You know what the word repent means? Turn around. You're going the wrong way. Repentez. It's a French thing. Soldiers were going this way, and the sergeant or whatever said, repentez, and they would turn 180, go the other way. That's what I screamed. I screamed it during the virus. You're going the wrong way. You're emphasizing the wrong thing. You're not taking into consideration your body's soil, its immune system, how the immune system works, how to bring that up to snuff. That's why when my days of private practice were over, I wanted to get to the mountaintop to teach. Okay? That's what my goal is. And I'm very thankful. Okay? I'm very thankful. And there's a lot of physicians that I reach, even on this program. A lot of them, surprising. But they've got an open mind and they're willing to learn. Is it going to change the establishment? I'm not holding my breath. I like what's happening to some extent down in the USA because of the FDA and changing things. What kind of a shift is going to happen? I like the idea. At least they're examining it, the status quo. Good luck here in Canada for changing anything. I'm not optimistic. I'm not. They're not listening. And there's a war. Well, there's a war on vitamin D right now. Canada. They want it by prescription only. Anyway, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. And we don't get enough sun in Canada. I don't know what we're going to do in the winter. They don't give us vitamin D. I can't get over it. It's crazy, but we're right there fighting that right now. Okay, I got excited. I didn't even get to half of what I did. I didn't get to teaching on B12. Because I don't teach that either. But we'll do that another time. We've been writing some new. You guys, do you get our emails? If you don't get our emails, please sign up at the doctor is in. No, don't sign up there. Sorry. martinclinic.com. Sign up there for emails. Why? Because we put a lot of information in the emails. Okay? We do deep dives in the emails. And then I try and pontificate on this program on these things and try and make them simple and try and make people understand them. My biggest way I teach, by the way, you guys know this, but I have a KISS method. And that's the way I studied in school, by the way. The KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. That was me. Okay? Keep it simple, stupid. Don't get too complicated. Medicine's complicated. Your body's complicated. Right? But I always tried to keep it simple for me so that I understood. How can you teach anything if you don't understand it? Right? So I simplified things in my mind in order to help people in their mind. Okay? I remember one time a physician told me, that's too simplistic. I said, well, I'm a simple person. Okay? And I'm not trying to teach you unless you want to listen. I'm after a different audience. If they invite me to a medical school, I'll teach them. I'll go into more detail if they want. Anyway. You know what I found out? Most physicians, because they don't know anything about nutrition, you better start with the basics. I always started with the basics, like cholesterol. And it was like I had two heads. I didn't know that. I know, you weren't taught. Okay. I'm breathing, I promise. Okay. Guys, Q&A tomorrow. Send your questions in to info@martinclinic.com. Share this. Share these diatribes. Share this with your friends. You do it, Facebook does it. Okay? Tell the folks about the Doctors In podcast on your favorite, okay? Your favorite platform. Okay? You know what I know about platforms? Nothing. But I hear it's a word that I can use. Okay? Okay. We love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.